Train the muscles, not the joints.
Welcome back to Natural Land Bodybuilding Mountain. And today I'm going to do a little bit of bis and tris in the garage, and I'm going to do a little bit of calves and stuff. So lately I've been playing around with a lower amount of frequency in my training because I always talk to you guys about changing up your frequency, changing up your volume, changing up your intensities, because there's advantages and disadvantages to each training technique or each type of training program. And it's important for you to utilize all these tools to see what brings you the best benefit. But right now what I'm doing is I'm trying to give my body a little bit of extra time to recover in between workouts. So my volume, if anything, is going down or has gone down. But in my individual workout, I might do a few extra sets for a body part as opposed to when I'm doing a 2-day split. But in the end, I'm probably only training the body part once every 3 or 4 days. Right? Maybe even less sometimes, depending on how many days off I choose to take. So sometimes there are times where you want to push the body and do lots of frequency, you know, almost like string it out a bit or push it a bit hard. But then there are other times that you want to focus more on recovery. And some would say, you know, recovery is king. I mean, you do want to make sure you recover to a point. But some people talk about overreaching, like you'll train the body in a way where it doesn't have the ability to recover for short periods of time, and then you'll take a little bit of a rest and then you recover. But it's like the overall training over the period of a week or two where you semi overtrain can sometimes help push you through plateaus. But if you do it too much, once again, you burn out, right? So it's important to also take periods of time where you give the muscles and the ligaments and things a little bit extra time to rest. I mean, if you need it, you know, if you're finding that your body is burned out or it's not necessarily progressing, maybe you do need more rest, right? So that's kind of the fun part about this whole training thing is that you discover different things. You basically hit a wall and you say, okay, what's the body trying to say this time? And sometimes it's saying to take more rest, sometimes it's saying to train harder, sometimes it's saying to change the rep range up or change the range of motion up, you know? But let's just put it this way. There are some exercises that will kill the joints way more than the muscle, and the joints take way longer to recover. And so that sometimes can get in the way of your bodybuilding gains. So that's why a lot of times when I've talked to people about refining their exercise technique to make sure they concentrate the stress on the muscle belly, at least evenly, you know, to the amount of stress they're putting on the joints, a lot of times they'll get more results because the joints aren't getting crucified so badly that they can't keep up, right? So the muscles are long since recovered, but the joints are taking, you know, weeks or months longer to heal, right? So you want to have a nice sort of synergy there, or a balance at least. But yeah, today I'm going to do a bit of biceps. I'm going to start with some barbell curl. And, the thing is, a lot of times people misunderstand about barbell curls. They think it has to be always strict and all the way up and all the way down, right? But one thing I've found is that when I use heavier weight, what happens is that the shoulder sometimes comes into it a little bit more, or the shoulder gets pulled forward. Now, this could be also because of my labral tears in the shoulder from playing hockey, right? So sometimes when I use heavier weight, it changes the form. Not because I'm cheating, but because it basically, the weight pulls the joint into a different positioning, which also changes the way I should lift. So really my main point is that sometimes heavier weight and lighter weight, there'll be different form for each. Not because you're cheating, but because the weight itself causes a certain change in the homeostasis of the balancing and the dynamic and how the forces play out, right? And say if you have injuries or something like that, that can also play a role. So if I'm doing super light and I'm coming up all the way, I will notice some shoulder involvement, but I'll notice quite a bit of bicep involvement, right? But once I go heavier and I start coming up all the way like this, then I start to notice that the shoulder starts to get exponentially blown up, right? Exponentially stressed. And then the bicep doesn't get as much stress. So then I find it's better to keep the elbows back and just kind of lean over the bar and do, reps like this. So don't be surprised if your form changes slightly as you go up in weight. And it doesn't mean you're doing everything wrong. It just means that you're responding to the forces and how they're playing out, right? So that's really what I'm talking to you guys about on this channel, is responding to the forces instead of just template exercise, template exercise. Sometimes as you go up in weight, the forces play out differently. The balance, we know the balance is different. Like say you're doing a squat. When you're squatting and you're squatting heavier weight as opposed to lighter weight, your groove actually changes because there's all sorts of counterbalancing that happens in order for you to remain on your feet. And depending on how heavy the weight is here will depend on how much you have to lean back or forward, right? Sometimes heavier weight here means you can come forward a little bit more with the knees and still stay on your feet, right? So this plays a role and it will change your groove in a subtle way. And sometimes people underestimate that when you're curling, say half your body weight or more, sometimes when you're curling the weight, it actually does move the body a bit. So there's a bit of a rocking going on. That doesn't mean that you're cheating, right? It's totally different doing this as opposed to just a subtle rock, right? You know, like a subtle rock, like a little bit of rock. That's not a big deal. Whatever way that you need to do the rep in order to accomplish the most tension on the muscle and the most fatigue on that muscle. And sometimes it won't be super strict. I've always said this, like the super strict reps are actually the worst reps in a lot of cases. They have their place, but if that's what you're doing exclusively, I find that I've seen a lot of super strict rep skinny guys walking around and yeah, it was frustrating because they'd be still saying super strict reps are the best, but they had no muscle to prove it, right? So in the end, remember your goal. Your goal is to put on muscle, to be healthy, and also to avoid injuries. And whatever technique that is that accomplishes that is the right technique. So first I'm gonna do just a set of barbell just to warm up the biceps and stuff. It's very important to always warm up the bicep tendons before you go heavier. And then I'm gonna go into 95 pounds and I'm probably gonna do like sets of 30 or something on the curls. But you'll notice I just curl to here. Like I don't curl like this. I just curl to here a lot of times when I'm doing 95 pounds or more because I take the shoulders right out of it. I'm just trying to take the shoulders out, right? So, you know, just like that, you know? So anyway, again, if you don't like my form, talk to my trophies. Again, I talked about this in the last video. Just send your complaints to the trophy department and they'll help you out. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, here's my first set here. So I can warm up, you know, and you can experiment with wider grip or narrower grip. Sometimes I find a little bit narrower is good. Helps take some of the shoulders out sometimes. But this is a much different form than I'm going to use when I go 95 pounds, right? But right now I'm just trying to just get the muscles warmed up. All right, so my goal here is to see how many reps I can get. And I'm not caring about pretty reps, just, you know, I'm not caring about how pretty the reps are. I'm just caring about whether I get that stress on the biceps or not and get a good burn. And my goal is not to do a lot of volume either, right? So if I only do 2 sets or 3 sets, I'm good with that. Maybe I'll do some incline curls after this, but I'm not looking to do volume. I'm looking to just stress that area and then move on, right? So here we go. So there you go, that's one set down. Got a great pump. Notice when I go narrower, sometimes it becomes like more like a drag curl, you know, but it doesn't matter as long as I'm getting that bicep to hit failure or as close to failure as I can get it. So sometimes, you know, the traditional curl where you bring the weight up and stuff, like I said, once I go above a certain weight, then I just start bringing in shoulders so much and the shoulders slide forward and back. It doesn't work as well for me, but if that works for you, then do that. That's 100% my advice on that. But yeah, I'll do a few sets like this. But yeah, it feels good. I don't know, it just feels good. And sometimes I will do a little bit of a wider grip or narrower grip. Like I just mess around with that and see what feels right for the day. Because here's the other thing, some days you're gonna find that one grip feels better for you than another. And there's like these subtle ways of stimulating the muscle from a different angle or in a slightly different way that can make bigger differences than you might think. So yeah, just if you're guided to try something new, maybe there's a reason for that. That's really my point, you know? So yeah, don't be afraid to change up the grip a bit because, you know, I think that if you get stuck doing something one way all the time, especially if it starts to not produce the results that you're looking for, then, you know, best piece of advice is just change up how you're doing something and see if there's some unfound results that you can find there. Unfound. There's a better word than unfound, right? Undiscovered. There you go. What's wrong with me? Why are words so difficult? I got to get a dictionary. Let's try a little bit of a wider grip this time. Try a bit wider, just for fun. Yeah, get those dirty reps in too. Dirty reps are good. Great, so that was an awesome few sets. I got a really good pump, a really good feel in the biceps from it, and that's really the most important thing. Again, you know, there's gonna be certain times where your form is super strict and certain times where it gets a bit dirty, but whatever way you feel, you really feel, okay, not think, but you really feel that muscle being stimulated is the most important part of the process, right? So as you're stimulating that muscle, then you're gonna basically get results. That's the whole point. Like, I can't tell you how many times I saw guys in the gym just doing curls like this and their arms weren't growing, but they were doing the perfect form, like, you know, the biceps up here. And again, for some people this works. And I think this is where people get indoctrinated a bit because they see somebody with great arms doing a bicep curl like this. And then they're like, okay, that's the only way to do the bicep curl. But if you're doing the bicep curl like this and you're feeling nothing but front delt work or quite a bit, a lot of forearm work, but you're not really getting this belly here, the bicep brachii, then it's good for you to step back and reassess, you know, what part of the movement, do you feel it a little bit here? Do you feel it a lot here? Keep the elbows back, do you feel it more? Like, just play around, externally rotating, you know? And I think through the experimentation with these variables, you're gonna get a really clear understanding of what will stimulate your arm better, instead of just, you know, following templates that are great for one person, but possibly not for you. Because like I said, we've all got different muscle insertions and dynamics going on in the body with how it moves, right? And yeah, you might be extremely blessed in a certain way, but you've never taken advantage of that blessing because you followed what other people are doing instead of tuning into what your body is trying to tell you, right? It's kind of like, it's like your body's Lassie. You remember the show Lassie, you know? Hey Lassie, what you saying, boy? What you saying, boy? And then the dog's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, basically the dog's trying to tell you that, you know, whatever the boy's name is, let's call him Johnny. Johnny fell down the well, you know? Whoa, 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 come follow me, you know what I mean? Let's go get Johnny. Well, your body's a lot like Lassie, and you have to interpret its barks. And once you interpret its barks, then you start to be able to play around it and have some fun and then see what works. So now I'm going to do a couple sets of incline curl, just a couple sets, and then I'll move on to something else. But yeah, I'm just going to go to 30s, but really the whole point of this is to stretch out those bicep brachii. And I'm doing the hybrid incline where I lean back a bit. Sometimes I lean back a little bit more, sometimes less, because I like this freedom of movement, right? And yeah, I feel really great stimulation doing it this way, but it's kind of like the pump and stretch principle though. A little bit of a pump here on the bicep curl with the barbell. And now I'm going to be able to stretch out that bicep brachii a little bit on a subtle incline and see what it feels like. So here we go. Mountain. Nice. There, I got a good bicep pump. And now I can move on to some triceps, right? But that's the great thing about, you know, when you're doing like more concentrated workouts on a muscle group, it does allow you to do more sets. Although I didn't do a lot of sets. As I said, I'm doing more an abbreviated version of working out and just trying to up that intensity without, you know, getting lost in a sort of the volume thing, right? And it seems to be working for me lately pretty good. So, but also, you will see me do standard kind of speed reps. I find that the most effective for myself. But once in a while, just to play around with mind muscle activation and so forth, you'll see me do some slower reps and so forth, right? And yeah, it's just a matter of finding your personal preference, not just from a comfort point of view, but more what gives you the better results. And I think depending on, you know, the way your nervous system is wired and also fast twitch fiber to slow twitch fiber dominance. You know, some people might be more power oriented and some people might be more endurance oriented. I think that will change the type of rep that you find most effective for muscle activation. But, you know, just play around. Again, I always say this, play around and see what seems to produce the best result, the best pump, the best muscularity and mind muscle connection and then go from there. But yeah, playing around with variations of rep speed is not a bad idea anyway, but for the most part you will find a certain ideal rep speed that you work with for the majority of the time, and then you'll probably have variable speeds that you do from time to time as well. But yeah, in the end, you know, we're all different, right? We all come from different histories and things. Like for instance, a lot of you guys don't know, but my left arm, I broke this elbow when I was a kid, and I can't bend it any more than this because the bone healed wrong, because the doctor healed it wrong. Basically, he didn't take into account that kids sometimes play when they have a cast. And I think I punched something with my cast one time and I moved the elbow back, and then therefore I could never bend this elbow all the way. It never hindered me in my life because now I can hyperextend it, right? So try to jiu-jitsu me with this arm, it's going to be pretty much impossible, almost anyway. But you'll have these subtle variations, subtle things that are going on in your body that you have to take into account when you exercise or when you lift weights. And that individuality, I'm telling you, people underestimate it big time, so don't underestimate it. But anyway, now I'm going to do some triceps. I'm going to do 3 sets of skull crushers. You've seen me do those a million times. I'm going to do the dumbbell skull crushers on an incline, and then I might do some variation of some sort of hybrid. I can't remember what it's called, but I'm just going to try something out with a barbell just for fun, just to see how it feels as a finisher. All right? Okay, here we go. So it feels pretty good. Got a good bicep pump, a good tricep pump. Now I'm going to do a, let's just say a playing around technique with the bar. I can't remember what this is called, some sort of something press or whatever. But I'm just gonna play around with lightweight. It's definitely something that I wouldn't recommend using heavy weight with, at least not for me and my elbows, but maybe some other people might like it. But sometimes when you're using lightweight, you can do different things and get creative with the technique like I've talked about before. And sometimes it can give you some surprising benefits. Sometimes it can heal you from certain injuries, or sometimes it can help you activate certain muscles you just can't get with the normal form, right? But you just have to be careful to use lighter weights when you do this sort of thing. And yeah, it's everything has its own set rules, and there's always places of negotiation. Let's just put it that way, right? There's not one rule or one size fits all when it comes to exercises. Sometimes when you're doing specific isolations, you might be doing something that's kind of awkward and something that might be extremely dangerous with heavy weight, but it can be very productive with super lightweight. So yeah, there's a time and place for everything. It's just a matter of, do you have the awareness and the self-awareness to feel the warning signs when it's not going right, So yeah, I'm just going to do a set or so of this just to feel it out, because I haven't done this. I can't remember the last time I did this exercise, actually. I'm just going to play around. We'll see what it feels like. It might be a total failure, but yeah, let's do it and go from there. But one of the things I do like about specializing in a couple body parts in a day, sometimes small body parts, is that you do have a particular sort of opportunity to put energy into a certain area, and you're not metabolically fatigued. You guys know what I'm saying? Like when you're doing high rep deadlifts or high rep squats, you know that the muscles that you train after that, it's a bit more of a dogfight to get through, because your metabolism's going and your cardio's going, your energy reserves and your nervous system's all taxed. But when you do work on some smaller muscle groups by themselves, you can really focus on stimulating the muscles without having a metabolic sort of fatigue going on at the same time. So there's benefits to both ways, but I don't think being exclusive to one way or the other is a good option. I think it's good to do workout programs where you're training chest, back, and legs, and then you do a little bit of arms in between. That's all fine. But it's also good to have days where, hey, you just train one or two small body parts and really isolate those areas and make sure that their muscles, the muscle fibers, are actually stimulated. It's not just part of a bigger metabolic stress. You know what I'm saying? Mountain. Hey, I'm getting bigger already. Okay, so I figured out what I want to do. What I want to do here, sorry, the camera's all off here, but figure out what I want to do. I want to do an aggressive elbow tuck, aggressive close grip to the chin instead of to the chest, but more of an aggressive sort of angle, but I'm going to use lightweight, 95 pounds. I would never recommend doing an aggressive close grip like this if you're doing heavy weight, but lighter weight, sometimes you can get a little bit of an isolation. So that's what I'm going to play with as a finisher, and it does feel good. But to do it heavy would just mess the elbows up, right? So there's going to be some certain aggressive angles you can use in your training, but again, go light if you're going to do that. And then from there, when you do your heavier lifts, then you're thinking more conservative angles on the joints. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's this this maestro type thing you're doing, to find the right angle of attack and the right tension. And it's like a soup, right? You got to get the right spices together for the good soup. Okay, here we go. That's the first just arm workout I've done in a long time. I've done lots of workouts where I've included arms, but I've very rarely lately anyway, just had an arm day, right? Mountain. Already bigger than the screen and stuff, so I have to get like a 20,000K camera, you know, like a, not 8K or 4K, just 20,000K, so I can fit in the camera lens sensor thing. So yeah, you know, natural bodybuilding is all about focus, right? So you're taking your focus into certain aspects of stimulation, and then through doing so, you can experience certain results, right? So a certain way of focusing is just focusing on a few muscle groups, just focusing on a few intense sets and just getting the muscle to hit failure. And then another form of focus would be, you know, frequency, like having the body constantly hit from this collage of exercises, low amounts of volume, right? And then there's the other way of doing things, which is, you know, the high volume focus approach, which is you're basically taking yourself into these endurance workouts where you're trying to hit the muscle from so many different angles and exhaust it. And I find that you're going to find a sweet spot in all of this, but you have to try different ways of doing things before you can see which is the best for you, right? So I know one guy at the gym, he was doing like 20 something sets for shoulders, right? Just in shoulder presses and lateral raises alone pretty much. And then he was moving on to another shoulder exercise. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, he's just like going crazy with the volume. But you know, he did get some results over the long run. So it's not about always what's the perfect technique. It's about what is the perfect technique for you in this moment. And that's really, I honestly, I think it's a saving grace mantra, or a saving grace piece of information that I think would help a lot of people. Because when they're stuck in one way of seeing things, then they you know, pretty much get programmed into a prison. So you want to break free of that prison and try new techniques, new ways of accomplishing the goal of getting more muscle mass. So that's my arm workout for today. I'm going to do a set or two of calf raises. I just do one-legged calf raises, and I try to hit the calves right to failure. And I've been getting results from that in between doing leg press type calf raises at the gym. So I'll do a little bit heavier weight there. Not super heavy, but just heavier than body weight type one-legged squats. And yeah, just from playing around with that, my calves are actually getting some good results too. But really, yeah, my focus right now is to lower down the frequency a bit, hyper focus on things, but really focus on, most importantly, recovery. And that's what seems to be doing the right thing for me right now anyway. So we'll see how long that lasts when I have to change things up again. But right now it feels pretty good. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this workout. Thanks a lot for watching. If you need to get a hold of me, just go to naturalgalantbodybuilding.com. And thanks to the Patreon supporters, and take care for now. Mountain.